At its heart, a concert ticket is a simple thing, or at least it should be. It symbolizes a contract between you and an artist that allows you admission to a performance set for a designated venue at a specific time. That's it. That's all it really is. But getting your hands on a concert ticket can be difficult, if not impossible. Beyond the cost, which can be substantial, there are all the hoops one must jump through just to secure a ticket. You must be computer literate. You need to be at your computer, ready to go when the appointed on-sale time arrives. And you have to be prepared to jockey for position in the queue with other fans who are not just from your area, but who are logging in from around the world. And then there are the scalpers, the crooks, and the shysters, who somehow elbow their way to the front of the line to scoop up hundreds of tickets before you even get a chance to enter your credit card number. These people and the tools they employ cause all kinds of headaches and heartbreak among fans who just want to go to a show. And how these scalpers operate often involve tactics that are not exactly legal. Bribery has been a problem for decades. So has insider activities. And since the beginning of the 21st century, music fans have had to contend with special software programs that buy up concert tickets by the hundreds within seconds. The result is that buying concert tickets has become one of the most frustrating and opaque of all consumer experiences. Who are these people who cheat their way to the best seats? And how do they do it? I'm Alan Cross, and this is episode 42 of Uncharted Crime and Mayhem in the Music Industry. And this time, our focus is on the tactics, misdeeds, and crimes of scalpers who prevent you from buying a concert ticket. It's happened to all of us. We want to see a concert by our favorite artist, and we do everything right. We get online in plenty of time, we have our credit cards ready, yet within a couple of seconds, and that's no exaggeration, all the tickets are gone. And seconds after that, tickets to this same gig start showing up on secondary seller sites with insane markups, 100, 200, 500% above face value. How is this possible? An explanation requires a deep dive into the history of ticket scalping, a problem that's probably been with us since the Greeks opened their first outdoor amphitheater about 2,400 years ago. That venue was built into the side of the Acropolis in Athens and could seat up to 17,000 people in 55 semicircular rows. There were probably guys in robes and sandals outside the venue yelling, "Who's got tickets?" in ancient Greek, of course. The same issue probably happened when the first Roman theater opened for business in Pompeii 2,200 years ago. And Shakespeare, no doubt, had some issues outside the Globe Theater for, say, the premiere of A Midsummer Night's Dream in 1604. As far as we know, the first person to organize a music concert that involved selling tickets was a London musician named Joe Bannister. He organized, promoted, hosted, and performed a concert featuring himself for a paying audience in his home. And the cost of admission was 1 shilling. The year was 1672, and this is the earliest documented evidence anyone has been able to find of this kind of paid events, although there surely had to be earlier such events. Was this illegal? No, but when it came to Bannister's gig, it must have been scandalous and audacious to do something as tawdry as asking for money to enter someone's home to witness a musical performance. But people paid up anyway. If you want to see the show, you must have a ticket. Modern ticket scalping evolved from flipping tickets to train journeys. Brokers would buy up tickets in bulk at a discount and then sell them to wannabe passengers at less than face value. But because the broker's discount was so deep, he could still make money. In the United States, these train ticket resellers of the 19th century were given the name scalpers. Why scalpers? Well, because they took a little off the top, I suppose. Just like Native Americans might have done fighting settlers and soldiers. If that's the case, the term is somewhat racist, no? Again, there's nothing illegal about what they were doing. In fact, they were performing a service for passengers. There were no laws that said they couldn't do this. They were also appreciated by train companies because even with the discount, they were able to fill their passenger cars at a profit. They didn't care what happened to the tickets after the broker took possession. The risk was transferred to the broker. It was up to him to find the perfect market price. And if he was stuck with unsold tickets, well, that was his problem. As the live entertainment industry grew, the practice of scalping moved to events such as concerts, theater, and vaudeville. This generation of scalpers was also known as sidewalk men. They worked by bribing the person at the box office to allow them to purchase as much of an event's ticket inventory as they could. These payments to the box office people were known as ice. Alternatively, they hired people to stand in line with pocketfuls of money with instructions to buy as many tickets as they could. These line standers were known as diggers. When patrons lined up at the box office to find that all the tickets were gone, these sidewalk men, who preferred the term ticket speculators, would walk up and down the sidewalk, offering tickets at highly inflated prices. In 1851, Jenny Lind, a singer known as the Swedish Nightingale, embarked on a tour of the United States. Her manager noticed a strange thing. The very best seats in every theater on the tour mysteriously disappeared, only to show up in the hands of sidewalk men. They were selling $3 tickets, which would be almost $100 in today's money, for $6, a fat 100% markup. So yeah, people were paying the equivalent of $200 to see a gig in 1851. This eventually made the news, and there was significant outrage. It was rumored that Lind's agent and manager were in on the scam, and as a result, Jenny Lind's reputation was greatly damaged in the U.S., and scalper hate had begun. Let me quote from a newspaper report in 1856, which told of a scalping situation at the Academy of Music in New York. The pertinacity with which these gentlemen persist in thrusting reserved seats in your face is intolerable. It cannot be beyond the resources of the Academy to kick them out of the lobby and off the steps into the street. A similar situation arose in 1867 when Charles Dickens went on a book tour of America. 5,000 fans started lining up at midnight on a very, very cold Tuesday night. By the time the box office was set to open, the line was half a mile long. Scalpers walked up and down the queue, offering as much as $20 in exchange for a fan's place in line. Back then, $20 was the equivalent of $700. Many refused, but by the time they got to the front of the line, all the tickets were already gone. Strangely, though, the sidewalk men had plenty. They were selling $5 tickets for up to $50. $5 was already the equivalent of $175 in 1867. $50 would be nearly $1,800. Charles Dickens unwittingly became the Taylor Swift of his day. By 8 o'clock in the morning, the queue outside the box office was nearly half a mile long, and about the time that the employers of the persons who had been standing in the streets all night began to arrive to take their places. The horrid speculators who buy all the good tickets and sell them again at exorbitant prices. Dickens wrote about the situation to his sister-in-law. "We are at wit's end how to keep tickets out of the hands of speculators. The young undergraduates of Cambridge have made a representation to Longfellow that they are 500 strong and cannot get one ticket." By the time the 20th century began, everyone hated ticket scalpers. They scooped up tickets for not just concerts and book readings, but college football games and boxing matches. There were crackdowns by police and politicians. Sidewalk men were often arrested on the streets near theaters and other venues, and there were laws passed making it illegal to buy, sell, traffic, or speculate in tickets. But enforcement was difficult. Promoters and theaters often held back tickets themselves for later scalping. Meanwhile, members of the public also figured out that they could make a quick buck by quietly selling tickets they'd managed to buy themselves. This is from an editorial in the Saturday Evening Post, January 2nd, 1915. Formerly, theater managers fought ticket speculators. Then managers and speculators joined hands to levy toll on theater goers and divide it 50-50. The result, for a time, was simply to increase the price of good seats at popular performances by 50 cents. Now, for good seats at a really popular performer, no one thinks of going to the box office, and the price is whatever the speculator can get. The $2 seat for a preferred location at a popular play is apt to be $3 as $2.50. The $6 opera ticket is anywhere from $10 to $15. The $3 one is from $5 to $10. The present arrangement, with tickets scattered in a dozen places, is less convenient to theater goers than the old one, under which you could go or telephone to the box office and get a choice of all the tickets that were unsold. That the theater flourishes under this arrangement shows its strong hold on the public. Such a relationship with patrons would kill the book trade. It would kill any magazine. We do not, at the moment, think of any business except the theater that could live under it. Then there's this editorial from August 13th, 1927, under the headline, "All Kinds of Suckers." People in many parts of the country must have rubbed their eyes in some astonishment a few months ago when that August tribunal, the Supreme Court of the United States, was asked to pass upon the constitutionality of a law forbidding theater ticket speculators in New York to charge more than a fixed addition to the box office price. By a close decision, the court declared unconstitutional the statute, which restricted the resale price to an advance of 50 cents above the printed rates. But the demand in New York that ticket speculators be curbed is insistent. But even the government cannot put a sense of financial value into the heads of citizens who lack it either all the time or when engaged in their regular New York theater orgy. The plain fact is that while newspapers and public officials rail against ticket speculators, the public, which pays $10 for a $3 seat, rather enjoys the experience. It continues. Ticket speculators would disappear like early morning mist if the public failed to patronize them. But it is said that these purveyors manage by one dubious device or another to gather up all the best seats. Yet public refusal to buy the best seats would annihilate the evil. Why should the government attempt to remedy a condition which the individual could correct instantly except for laziness, an exaggerated idea of his own importance, and the necessity at any price of having the best? After all, the government has more worthwhile things to do than to protect people from the consequences of the last word in gilded indolence. Besides, there is just a little question of whether even the government can repeal the law of supply and demand. Again, that's 1927, when there was an investigation into Broadway theaters and music halls. And nothing came of it. The same thing happened in 1949. Nothing. And then there was an attempt at enforcement in 1963. Still nothing. Meanwhile, how did that box office manager who made, $10,000 annually afford a brand new Cadillac every year? The situation was only going to get worse. Much, much worse. This episode of Uncharted is all about the crime and mayhem associated with trying to get a concert ticket for face value, or for any price for that matter. Today, ticket scalpers, resellers, and speculators are the bane of the live music fan's existence. The law has been trying to stamp them out for almost 2 centuries with zero luck. By the time we got to the 1960s, there was a constant scandal involving those who sold tickets to Broadway shows. $10 tickets often flipped for $100. Doing inflation math, that's over $1,000 today. So who was making such huge profits? Like we saw earlier, theater employees mostly, but producers were also known to scalp tickets to their own shows. There's the story of one Broadway producer, unnamed, who made so much money this way, scalping tickets to his own performances, that he bought himself a lobster boat. The truth was that theaters, producers, and promoters quietly loved, or at least tolerated, scalping because it was a way to guarantee full houses. At the very least, it unloaded the risk of selling tickets themselves. Come showtime, there may be unfilled seats in the theater, but who cared? Those empty seats had been bought and paid for by scalpers. The theaters and producers had their cash, so it's, too bad if the scalpers lost money. The problem only got worse with the rise of rock and roll through the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. It didn't take long for scalpers to realize that the frenzy of rock audiences meant big profits. Their racket expanded from just theater productions and sporting events to rock concerts. Once again, box office employees were bribed, and in some territories, we began to see organized scalping networks that employed carefully targeted and coordinated tactics in multiple cities to grab as many concert tickets as they could. Once again, there were a few feeble attempts at law enforcement, and they were largely a failure, regardless that some jurisdictions had heavy penalties for speculating in tickets. Back then, concert tickets were insanely cheap when compared to today. In 1972, a Led Zeppelin show cost as little as $4. You could see the Rolling Stones, a band at their absolute peak, for $6.50, which is about $50 today. Back in those days, the business model was different. You went on tour to promote a new album. If you were lucky, you might make a little on the tour, but the real profit came from all the records you'd sell as a result. There were all kinds of attempts by artists to make sure tickets got into the hands of actual fans. The Grateful Dead had a very well-organized mail-order system for tickets. It was labor-intense, but it generally worked well. For the Stones' 1972 tour, they tried a lottery system to distribute 560,000 tickets. If you wanted a ticket to one of the shows, you had to mail in a postcard with a request. The whole concept collapsed when fraudsters figured out how to game that system. In 1980 and 1981, Bruce Springsteen, realizing the problem, tried to keep ticket prices to $12.50. But the scalpers swooped in and began offering those tickets for $200. Meanwhile, fans struggled to get tickets. Remember, this was still in the era of pre-printed hard tickets. Box offices had trays and trays of tickets. There were just two ways to get them, too. First, some ticketing agencies offered phone purchases. You'd call them up, give them a credit card number, and they would mail you your tickets. Or you could pick them up at the venue on your way into the gig. But getting through on the phone was often difficult, and by the time someone answered, it was possible that the gig was sold out. More common, though, was to line up in person. Fans would queue for hours, overnight, and even for days, in hopes of getting their hands on tickets. But this was easily defeated by the scalpers, using the age-old techniques of using diggers, people paid to stand in line with wads of cash, with instructions to buy as many tickets as they were allowed once they got to the front of the line. And there was another old way. Use an insider, someone who worked at the box office to put prime tickets aside in exchange for a nice kickback. Promoters continued to make an extra buck by scalping tickets to the shows that they were staging, and even artists weren't below reselling whatever allocation of tickets they negotiated on the open market for whatever they could get. Computerized concert ticketing was supposed to solve this. Instead of having trays of pre-printed tickets, box offices started using a computer terminal which connected to a database of virtual tickets. When a ticket was sold, it was printed right there. This made it much easier to track inventory. Every single ticket could be accounted for, and it really cut down on box office insiders from making that little extra juice. Companies like CompuTicket, TRS, Bass, Select-A-Seat, Ticketron, and yes, Ticketmaster started to appear. They were great for tracking ticket sales, but in the end did little to cut down on scalping because you still had to line up at a box office or call on the phone. Tools like early home computers and fax machines help pro scalpers manage their businesses more efficiently. And again, law enforcement was very lax in most places. Ticket resellers, or ticket brokers, which is their preferred name, started renting office space that fans could visit. Many placed ads in newspapers, knowing full well that no one would ever come after them. But then, around 2000, the internet exploded. eBay began as a company called Auction Web in 1995, and within a couple of years, it was trading in airline tickets, hotel rooms, cruises, and more. In September 1997, Auction Web became eBay, a shortened version of an associated company called Echo Bay Mines. The owners wanted the domain echobay.com, but a gold mining company already had dibs on that, so Echo Bay became ebay.com. For a while, eBay was the place to buy and sell concert tickets. Again, we're still in the era of hard-printed tickets. At around the same time, Craigslist appeared. It was an electronic version of newspaper classified ads. Ads for tickets started moving from newspapers to Craigslist. Both sites allowed anyone to become a scalper. Meanwhile, ticket resellers continued to up their game. StubHub was founded in 2000 as a way to buy and sell all kinds of tickets: sports, theater, concerts, and other live events. Now that a business had a thin veneer of legitimacy, law enforcement against scalping declined even further. In fact, lobbyists often managed to get governments to rewrite laws to either weaken or legalize and legitimize ticket scalping. This was no longer ticket scalping. Ticket brokers engaged in ticket reselling. Artists were not happy about this. Third parties selling tickets to their shows for big markups not only distorted their relationships with fans, but the artists didn't see any of this extra money. Ticket brokers made huge profits on the artist's talent, labor, and expertise without cutting them in. Their resentment for scalpers only grew. Some artists, like Pearl Jam, tried to take a stand, but their targets were legitimate companies like Ticketmaster and the service charges levied on tickets. But these efforts did zero to combat the overall problem of scalping. And then the internet struck again. There were a couple of major developments. First of all, illegal file sharing of music exploded thanks to the appearance of Napster and all its descendants. People stopped buying physical media like CDs. So, in order to make up for lost revenue, an artist's career was turned upside down. Selling records and CDs was no longer the profit center. Playing live was. A new album became just an excuse to go on the road, and revenue from ticket sales became the replacement for revenue from CD sales. And this caused ticket prices to go up. Scalpers saw this as an opportunity to make even more money. Another thing, there was a huge growth in population. In 1965, North America had a population of around 215 million. By 2000, it was 313 million. More people means more music fans, means more demand for concert tickets. And finally, the legitimate ticket-selling industry went paperless. Physical box offices started to disappear. If you wanted to buy a ticket, you needed to go online to a website, purchase your ticket, and then print them out. So not entirely paperless, but hard tickets at the box office were made extinct. This would be later streamlined with smartphones and apps, so no more printing, just a barcode or a QR code on an app on your phone. This meant no more lining up or frustrating waits on the phone. But this did open a whole new level of crime and mayhem. That's next. Transitioning from hard-printed tickets sold at a box office to virtual tickets sold online was supposed to combat ticket scalping. Instead, it resulted in a massive tech-driven industry that made it exponentially harder for fans to get tickets at face value for their favorite artists, or to get any tickets at all. At the center of it all were bots, automated computer programs capable of buying tickets online far faster than any human ever could. They scrape websites for pricing, check inventory for seat availability, and purchase and resell tickets. To the website, let's say Ticketmaster, bots appear to be humans operating at superhuman speed. A bot can buy 1,000 tickets in a minute. A couple of bots can grab 20,000 tickets in a day or so. If the scalper has a pre-sale link, a bot can open tens of thousands of accounts, those links that they get for pre-sale, and take up tens of thousands of places in the ticket buying queue. In other words, a single bot can simulate the presence of many thousands of flesh and blood fans trying to buy tickets. They work like this. Before tickets go on sale online, bots create hundreds or even thousands of accounts with the seller like Ticketmaster. The more bot accounts a scalper controls, the more tickets the scalper can buy. Having more bots also gets around the rules about the maximum number of tickets a person can purchase at one time. Other bots use fraud to take over existing legitimate accounts and turn them into ticket-buying zombies. This is why your username and password had better be strong. When tickets do go on sale, thousands of bots move in fast across multiple browsers, reserving tickets or dumping them into their purchase carts, thereby denying access to anyone else. That is a tactic called denial of inventory. A single bot can open hundreds of browser windows at once, and they're all buying tickets. There's a story of one broker who had over 9,000 Ticketmaster accounts that were used to buy up more than 315,000 tickets to the production of Hamilton over 2 years. In other cases, scalpers use special types of programs called expediting bots, which scrape ticketing websites, constantly looking for newly released tickets. When they become available, they're snapped up in less than a second. The public has no chance. They don't even know the tickets are there. Big companies will charge their purchases to multiple credit cards. Crooks will use stolen credit card credentials to buy their tickets. One study says that bots can be responsible for up to 40% of all traffic to a ticketing website. That can increase to beyond 95% for a big show by a major artist. For example, when Taylor Swift's Eras Tour went on sale in November 2022, Ticketmaster was hit by over 3 billion bot requests on that first day. Anyone with a bot has a hugely unfair advantage over fans who have to do things manually, the human way. So who are these people? There are 5 main categories of bot users. The first are ticket brokers, whom we've already talked about. Then there are individuals who purchase a bot program online and script it to their needs. Then we'd have what we call hospitality agencies, specialists who constantly scrape ticketing sites for the availability of premium seats. Big corporations who want to offer their clients and customers tickets as some kind of a perk also employ bots. And then we have big corporations who want to offer their clients and customers tickets as some kind of a perk. They also employ bots. And then we have pure criminals who take over accounts, steal tickets, intercept transfers from one account to another, engage in credit card fraud, and scam loyalty programs. All this begs the question, who came up with the idea of bots in the first place? Well, we have a name. Ken Lawson. Ken was a former insurance salesman from Arizona, specializing in liability insurance, who dabbled in scalping. His methods were pretty standard in the beginning. He had a room full of people he called pullers, and they pestered the telesales staff at Ticketmaster. Remember, there was a time when you could call a ticketing company, talk to a human, and buy your tickets from them. There was a lot of social engineering that went on, begging and sweet-talking the phone operators at Ticketmaster into either reserving or selling them big blocks of tickets. This worked surprisingly well and allowed Lawson to acquire tickets in any market. In 2001, he connected with a teenage programming whiz in Bulgaria, and together they developed an automated concert ticket buying program. When they first deployed it, it worked just fine. Over the months and years that followed, the programs were refined to be faster and more ruthless when it came to elbowing past humans to buy tickets. Lawson's company, unironically called Wise Guy, had just 4 computers at first. The genius behind his methods was using autofill scripts, meaning that his staff didn't have to enter the same boring information over and over again. Names, address, and most importantly, credit card numbers were filled in automatically. The speed advantage this gave Lawson over regular fans was exponential. He and his teenage programmer buddy also figured out a way to get around those capture codes that were supposed to weed out non-humans. With further refinements, human input was eliminated entirely, and the bots became completely autonomous. Each bot was assigned a power ranking, meaning, for example, that a bot with a 500 rating was equal to 500 humans buying tickets. Lawson could suck up to 20,000 tickets in just 2 minutes. Speed was improved millisecond by millisecond. At one point, Wise Guy had 30 servers working 24/7, ready to pounce on tickets the instant they went on sale. Some tickets were sold through their own channels, while others were offered to ticket brokers. Lawson's biggest score came during U2's Vertigo tour in 2005 and 2006, when he was able to hijack thousands of tickets that had been earmarked for the band's official fan club. Fans were required to pay a $40 membership fee, which was supposed to guarantee them first dibs on tickets. Well, that was easy to get around. Lawson spent $200,000 on buying memberships in the U2 fan club on a couple of credit cards, which gave them all kinds of pre-sale codes that were supposed to be just for fans. Using his programs and computers and servers, he was able to divert $2.3 million worth of tickets from fans to his inventory. U2 was shocked to the point of apologizing publicly, at the Grammys no less, and had to drop the price on $150 seats to help out fan club members screwed out of their chance at tickets. But then Lawson bought up all those tickets too. Again, total profit from this one tour, $2.3 million. Lawson made tens of millions of dollars with his bots between 2001 and 2010, buying up tickets and reselling them. In an interview, he said, "I made more money than I could spend. I was living a rock star life. Everybody in the office was partying. It was painkillers and alcohol at night and Adderall in the morning. And all the other ticket brokers, well, they treated me like the king." Lawson was able to get tickets to any event anywhere in the United States. When 1,000 impossible-to-get tickets went on sale for the Rose Bowl in 2006, the only tickets made available for a stadium with a capacity of 100,000 people, Wise Guy was able to grab 882 of them. In 2007, Wise Guy acquired 11,700 tickets to a Bruce Springsteen tour. That was worth $1.3 million. At one point in the aughts, Lawson claimed that his company dominated 90% of the ticket sales in the U.S. There was one 3-year period where it's estimated that Wise Guy brought in $25 million. It's estimated that 1.5 million tickets passed through Wise Guy's hands. "I really didn't remember giving fans a second thought," he said in an interview. "I was a selfish drug addict, an alcoholic. He started drinking when he was 14. I only cared about myself." Authorities monitored Lawson for 3 years before the FBI raided the Wise Guy offices in the Century City area of Los Angeles in 2010. His downfall was brought on by a ticket broker named Jason Nissen and his outfit, National Event Company, after a dispute involving Miley Cyrus tickets on a Hannah Montana tour. Somehow, the daughter of a senator was allegedly promised tickets that did not materialize. Montana blamed Wise Guy and named names. Lawson was hit with 42 charges of fraud and hacking, and he went to jail. I'm just kidding. He copped a plea deal, which resulted in nothing more than probation. How's that possible? His lawyers maintained that no laws were broken. Wise Guy just exploited technical loopholes that existed with ticket-selling websites. And when you really get into the weeds of the case, they were right. The most serious of the charges was wire fraud, due to the fact that he had a Russian programmer working for him and wanted to be paid in Amazon gift cards. You can't do that. Lawson tried to go straight, but it took a 4-day bender that resulted in hallucinations involving Obi-Wan Kenobi in a detox facility in India. Obi-Wan somehow scared him straight. Lawson eventually found himself back in the ticket business, this time with his son. He's now operating a company called TixFan that helps fans beat the bots and to fight what he calls the corruption inherent in the ticketing world. Listen, if a guy would know, it would be him, right? He says his mission is to take $10 billion from scalpers and give $9 billion to artists and keep $1 billion for himself. He wants to do that by acquiring and selling tickets to fans with maximum transparency. As an aside, Jason Nissen, he was later accused of fleecing $32 million from investors in a bizarre Ponzi scheme said to involve $120 million. Yes, bots are illegal in many countries these days. Ticketmaster spends hundreds of millions of dollars trying to defeat bots. But the technology is improving so fast, and the tactics are so devious that it's become an endless game of whack-a-mole. It's estimated that Ticketmaster deals with 6 billion bot incursions every year, which means their websites are hit on an average of 11,000 times per minute, 24/7. Many bot operators have simply moved their base of operations beyond the reach of anti-bot government policy in places like Canada, the US, the UK, and Australia. Many have servers in Eastern Europe, Gibraltar, Panama, the Isle of Man, which is conveniently located in the Irish Sea, and various tax haven countries. Those who don't want to relocate simply use VPNs and proxy IP addresses. Meanwhile, there are tech sweatshops in places like India that employ dozens and dozens of people to type characters into CAPTCHA boxes that help bots break through. At the same time, you don't have to be Ken Lawson or operate a foreign tech sweatshop. A quick online search will direct you to sites that will sell you your own ticket-buying bot for between $100 and $900. There are sites that will also take you through how to build your own bot. The problem of scalpers has been around for literally centuries. When you have a perishable high-demand commodity like a concert ticket, someone is always going to want to find a way to make money from someone else's desires. There is no end in sight. You can catch up on all episodes of Uncharted by downloading them from your favorite podcast platform. If you have any questions or comments about anything you hear on this podcast, shoot me an email to alan@alancross.ca. We can also meet up on all the social media sites along with my website, ajournalofmusicalthings.com, which is updated with music news and recommendations every day. Oh, and there's the free daily newsletter that you should get. And finally, please check out my other podcast, The Ongoing History of New Music, which deals with rock music at large. There are hundreds and hundreds of episodes that you can enjoy for free. See you next time for more stories of crime and mayhem in the music industry. Episodes arrive every 2 weeks. Technical productions by Rob Johnston. I'm Ellen Cross.